Are we memeing ourselves into oblivion?
Yes.
All right, we were a little off with the timing there, but hey guys, what's going on? Memes here. I'm joined by sci-fi novelist Kai. Hello to everybody, Kai.
How's it going, everybody?
All right.
Good to be back. The last time I was here, I was not a novelist. I was just a dude.
This is true. This is true. I got to have you on pre-publication. Just remember the little dinosaurs and stuff that were kicking around the internet when you get famous and everything. But we're going to shift things around, as I've entitled the stream with a link to Kai's channel in the doobly-doo below, if you should so choose to follow this very interesting gentleman. We're going to be talking about science. As we can see, we have our little cosmic background. We're slightly covering up the pulsar over here. You can see a little bit of the light eking out through there. But this has come along because of the sheer fact that, well, we've been talking about politics so much, and I'm like, well, I've basically just been being a bad Tim Pool, and Tim Pool already exists and everything, and it also kind of drains the soul. So let's talk about some other things, because I was listening to a bunch of physics videos and learning about space and time and all that jazz. So I'm like, oh, maybe I should talk to someone else that's interested in that. How about a guy that wrote a sci-fi novel? That sounds like a good idea, right?
Yeah, man, I love talking about space. I was reading an article earlier about quantum tunneling. Which is interesting.
Go on.
Well, it appears that quantum tunneling particles move fast. They go faster than the speed of light when they're tunneling. For anyone not aware of what quantum tunneling is, it's so like if you're throwing a ball at a wall, it's going to bounce off. But in the quantum world, once in a while, for some reason, the ball will go through the wall. It'll just go boop. And that's called quantum tunneling. And they've realized that no matter how thick the wall is, that it barely changes the amount of time it takes. In fact, it seems to go a little faster with the thicker the wall. So whatever the effect that is causing quantum tunneling seems to be breaking the speed of light or teleporting or something.
That's fascinating. No, because I remember reading or hearing about a study before where they were doing like some measurement or something like that, and it almost looked like at the measurement end that it almost got there before it left where it was. It was something about it either was the exact same time and it almost seemed almost more instantaneous there. It was like, what the heck? Now, is that related to like maybe the double slit experiment at all? Is it within that same vein, or maybe that was just an observation that kind of led us to talk about
different. They're different effects, but they honestly in the quantum world, like, everything's pretty connected. You know, like what's it called? So with the double slit experiment, it's about non-locality, and so the electron may or may not be in any number of places. Quantum tunneling is just straight going through walls without explanation. And so they first saw the effect in like 1936 or something like that. In the 1930s, it was the first time they observed it. But the thing is that when they would measure quantum tunneling effects, it was incongruent with established physics. So they were like, well, the results here don't make sense. So they just don't report it.
So it basically kind of got thrown out because it confused the scientists, and they're like, oh, we might have to redo all of science. But
yeah, they're like, this doesn't work with the science. There's got to be something wrong with what I'm doing. So I'm not going to publish this because I don't want to look like an ass.
I think I've actually heard that from both a Mr. Eric Weinstein as well as a Stephen Wolfram, that they've mentioned that a lot of folks, if something doesn't seem to line up, they just kind of throw it out because like, oh, well, this means all of our careers that we've done work on maybe mean nothing, which in my opinion, and even Stephen Wolfram has echoed this along with Eric Weinstein, is like, that seems like a lot of BS. It's like, do you have an idea how much we figured out? The sheer fact we're able to do this right now, that I'm able to speak with you from potentially another point in the country and or planet right now, as well as bringing up an article from a generalized internet encyclopedia to help explain what the heck quantum tunneling is, an effect first observed right in the 1930s, as you were saying there. I mean, look at what we've been able to do. The thing is, it's like, okay, well, if we got all the low-hanging fruit, it's like, well, what are our bounds right now? And both Mr. Wolfram and Mr. Weinstein, they're like, what if Einstein was just a wee bit off? What if he was mostly right, but he was just a wee bit off with some of the other things? Because most of the calculations we've already done so much hard work. We've got so much information here. What if we can just, I don't know, just rig-a-jigger things just a tiny bit, and that could potentially get us fast to the speed of light? That sounds like a lot. But as far as quantum tunneling, according to Wikipedia, quantum tunneling, or tunneling, US, is the quantum mechanical phenomenon where a wave function can propagate through a potential barrier. So basically what Kai just said right there, stuff goes through walls. The transmission through the barrier can be finite and depends exponentially on the barrier height and barrier width. The wave function does not appear on one side and reappear on the other. The wave function does not disappear on one side and reappear on the other side. The wave function as first derivative are continuous in steady state. The probability flux in the forward direction is spatially uniform. No particle or wave is lost. Tunneling occurs when barriers of thickness around 1.3 nanometers and smaller. Okay, well, that was a whole bunch of stuff that I'm not going to lie, I don't even really necessarily understand there, but it sounds like is the wave operating in another dimension, or a higher dimensionality, or a dimension that we're not really observing?
I think that might be something that, I think that is definitely something that our physicists are going to have to entertain soon if they want to start, making progress in things, is looking at the non-physical, look more at the non-physical and the things that exist outside of our spectrum of reality, other, whatever terms they, use to define that. I don't know if it's, other dimensions or like other, because my understanding of like the multi-dimensional theory of reality is that like things are kind of like folded in on these dimensions, are kind of folded in on themselves and on each other. I imagine it like when you tie your shoe. But yeah, I think they tend to focus very much on the physical world, which makes sense because science is the study and explanation of the world. But
the entire universe, we're trying. Right. Sorry. Right. No, but my thing is, I kind of go back to, what was it, A Wrinkle in Time, and how it was explained there. Right. It's like, all right, let's suppose you got a string. You got your string out here. You got to travel from one side of the universe to the other. This is pretty far if it's a lot of light years. But if all of a sudden you go from two ends of the string, and space itself just kind of, the string is falling in here. So space still exists, but it's kind of contorted, so it's a much shorter distance. I've heard the equivalent said of, basically, if we could reach a higher dimension where basically a mile essentially becomes an inch to us at that point. So it's like, all right, well, if that was the case, an inch is a lot easier than a mile. I can walk a lot of inches really quickly. It takes me a while to do a mile. So if we could somehow, that's the thing, if Einstein or some of like the OG physicists, if they're just a little bit off, if we can recalculate this and open ourselves up to new things, because dude, I'm listening to these videos and stuff, and all of a sudden it's like, there's a bunch of antimatter apparently in like the Van Allen belt and stuff. I'm like, okay, pause. So what you're saying is one of the theoretical materials that we're talking about, in order to attempt to, with what we know, achieve the speed of light and stuff, it's within, I don't know, our generalized orbit here. We don't need to go all the way like into different, like outside a black hole to potentially observe this stuff. This sounds like a lot of things that like we have the potential to actually like literally reach out and start to do real experiments with and actually learn things. Like this is why I'm like, okay, I see people arguing over many things. There's a lot of important things to argue about, but I'm like, dude, in 1,000 years we could be pushing Star Trek tech. And that sounds badass to me.
Absolutely, we could. And I have no doubt that Einstein was a little bit off Because even when he was writing his formula, when he was coming up with his formula, he added a variable to compensate for a discrepancy. He's like, oh, well, if I add this variable, everything lines up perfectly.
The cosmological constant, right?
The constant. The what?
Right. Well, because I thought Einstein, he had done his math, and according to his math, basically the universe was expanding, and his initial response is, "Well, that's preposterous. The universe totally isn't expanding. We know that," but he was actually wrong. And I think he had even said, or at least I've heard folks say, that he exclaimed that was basically his biggest mistake in his life. That he's like, okay, he did the math worked out, but it said something that he really wasn't expecting to see, that didn't make sense to him. So instead, he just added a constant number, which is like, I don't know, like 300,000 meters per second or something.
Well, I think the formula just needs a constant, which is the universal constant. But even though he was saying he later regretted that, later research proved that he was onto something. Like there was some understanding of the universe that Einstein lacked. He was looking at something and observing something that was true about the universe. But then when he was writing his formula, there was something about the bigger picture that he didn't have. So that's why he inserted that variable, even though he regretted it later. So far, it's been accurate.
What do you think he was missing, or what part of the picture?
I don't know, dude.
I don't know. The way you said it, I'm just like, I have some added information here that obviously we don't know about higher dimensions and stuff. I don't know, dude.
One of those things, it's like a known unknown, you know? Like, he knew that he was missing something, but he didn't know what that could be. That meant that he was missing something because he knew it. And whatever that thing is, maybe it's how consciousness fits into reality. Maybe it's something that we don't even have any idea about yet because it hasn't been discovered. Maybe it's something Tesla discovered and no one believed him, you know?
Well, nobody really ended up funding him because it's like all these banks and stuff were getting ready to give him all this money and stuff. And he's like, we're gonna give the world free energy, and then all of a sudden the banks were like, wait, we can't monetize this. Have a nice day. Hello, Edison.
Yeah, and what's messed up is he tore up his contract with I think his light bulb contract or something, and then that guy ended up making a bunch of money, and he didn't get paid for it because he tore up his contract to help the guy out because he was struggling.
These are some of the things when you start learning about some of these individuals and some of the things that were there. It's like, wait a second. So you're saying that potentially due to investment and lack thereof, we could have potentially had, I don't know, it's maybe not infinite energy, but a whole crap ton of potentially free energy across the entire world. I mean, we may have had long-term effects of moving all this electrical particles throughout the ionosphere and something, and wirelessly that might have effects as well. So, I mean, we don't necessarily know.
I think that he was harnessing the energy that's already there from the planet. So we're not really moving anything around that's not already moving around, right? We'd be
okay. So he was just using the charged particles just within the atmosphere, and he was literally doing call lightning and like harnessing. Holy crap! He was a wizard.
He would just sit there in front of his giant sparking electricity thing, scare the shit out of people.
Well, dude, that is also one of the most iconic things that seem to get relegated to like Frankenstein movies and stuff after his death and everything. But we'll take a real quick scroll through the chat here. Welcome everybody. Hey there, Bone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Bone.
As well as Dave M. Dave M. is one of my patrons. Shout out to Dave M. and Joe Franco. This show is helped made possible by viewers like you, as well as we have the Jelly Duck. Jelly Duck. Hail, my friend. Hail, my friend. We'll have to get you on and discuss some other things. Go back to the networking days, as well as a Terry Rose there. Welcome. As well as dropping all the different jokes. Forward, red shifting. This concerns me. But yes. I like science. I need to upload those memes. Because as of right now, I think the only what are the ones that I have? Excuse me, I'm still learning how to use this piece of thingamajigger. Continue talking, sir.
I don't know. I know that was when we were talking about the what's it called, a Wrinkle in Time, the Tesseract, and bringing points in time together like wormholes and stuff. They called it a Tesseract in son of a bitch. I'm sorry, I have a seed that won't come out.
Kai is busy doing some prepping work for his. What were they? Figs, plums.
They're dates. Yeah, so
Dates.
I'm pitting dates, and then I'm gonna. Oh, there we go. I'm pitting dates, and then I'm gonna fill them with cream cheese.
It sounds so good, dude.
And then,
you get that fiber, and then you get your proteins and your fats. That's actually a really good idea. You start doing it. I need to go to the grocery store.
Then I'm wrapping it in bacon.
Oh, go on. How are you gonna cook it?
After I cook it up, I'm gonna go to my friend's house and we're gonna fry them.
Oh dear, it literally sounds a heart attack in a fruit. This is brought to us by science and the universe in which we live.
Yeah.
But
thank you, science.
Okay, so we seem to be learning all these different things about the fabric of reality. But as far as reality goes, it kind of keeps on going back to quote unquote the observer issue. And this still kind of confuses me because I hear two folks like a Mr. Weinstein who has the theory of geometric unity. His brother says it's a hypothesis, as well as Mr. Stephen Wolfram, who's going basically almost like a brute force using Wolfram Alpha, which some folks within the mathematics community and or other sciences is basically he's using cellular automaton. And basically he's just doing computation. His basically idea is the universe is based upon some very specific, simple rules like, okay, this is what happens. And if you have those very basic parameters, if you compute them enough, you eventually get our universe. And I've been listening to some of these things. It's still very confusing, but it's basically he's attempting to more or less map everything.
Yeah.
Because when he gives the example, it's like we have certain equations and stuff for like fluid dynamics and stuff like that. So it's like you take a bottle of water, you start pouring out, it goes glug, glug, glug. We have equations to kind of govern what we're generally going to observe. As far as what every single individual particle is doing, we have no freaking idea. And that's essentially what he's trying to get at. Or it's at least what it's kind of been used for. And the way they kind of go at it, they kind of go at it from a very mathematical view, and they'll use different, it's basically just they use hypergraphs, which is basically you go back into school, you add your little graph paper and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, if this happens here, you shade this cell. And then the next cell, if this one is shaded on this side, this one will be shaded, but this one will not. And it continues to replicate out. And you start looking at it, and I listened to the one on special relativity, and you're looking at it, you're like, this is still kind of confusing, but if everything kind of aligns and you're seeing more or less the same pattern, I mean, the equations are still valid. It's just you're kind of trying to map out what's the underlying point there. Whereas Eric Weinstein, he's kind of going more along the lines of, okay, math and geometry. How do we just kind of balance them on? We're actually talking about quote unquote theories of everything, which is basically just trying to explain like how the universe itself just kind of works. Basically, how can you unite the different branches of physics? Because it's like, okay, we have basically gravity is always eluded people. That seems to be the thing. Like you could explain gravity, but to link it in with the other fundamental forces and stuff. So it's like the electro-strong force, which is what binds like protons and neutrons together. The electro-weak force, which basically has, I believe, the electron and stuff there binding it together, as well as I'm missing something. Electro-strong, no. Strong nuclear, no. Nuclear weak, and then electromagnetism. Okay, sorry.
I think the weak nuclear is the not cellular decay, atomic decay. That's what, when you know how like radioactive, pardon me, atoms decay over time.
So like uranium's emitting like alpha particles or something.
Yeah, and they break down over time. So that's what the weak force is or if I remember right, that's the effect that causes that. But hold on, I need to find. I don't remember his name right now, but I had to clean off my sticky hands before I could type.
It's all right. It's all right. We don't want sticky keys here. Sorry, that comes later. But let's take a look at what we have for the weak interaction. In nuclear physics, in particle physics, the weak interaction, which is also often called the weak force or weak nuclear force, is a mechanism of interaction between subparticles that is responsible for, you are absolutely correct, Kai, the radioactive decay of atoms.
Yeah.
All right. No, I completely missed that. Oh, well, point for Kai. There we go, everybody. But yes, at times like this, I'm just. I love that. I've got multiple versions. I want to test it, see if it worked, and I'm slowly gathering my memes, and I'll do some more live shows. We're gonna make it fun. Do
you not usually use StreamYard?
But dude, well, here's the thing. A lot of times I was putting out videos, and then I was so pressed for time where I would literally get home from work, upload a video off to like a workout video or something from the other day. And then by the time that's done, literally just hop on StreamYard, stream to like YouTube, Facebook, cover a quick article or story that I kind of found, read it there, and then basically like go do my workout, come back, eat dinner and stuff, and go to sleep. And get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning or so. It was very busy. And now I saw people doing all these cool things like, wait a second, Brand, I can add video clips? That's how people do these things. I'm like, oh, how dare I actually spend like, I don't know, more than like 30 seconds looking at something and be like, oh, this makes sense. I can change backgrounds. I can do stuff like this and that if I really want to have more scores.
That's the squirrels you're talking about.
Oh no, there's even more squirrels than that, my friend, for many different occasions. But essentially, squirrels are part of science. They are part of physics. They are part of our biological world. They are our furry little friends that at times dance to, I don't know, Korean pop music, and are highly edited by somebody on the internet, which I like doing things like that. The more folks I can troll into being furries, the better. Just my opinion on the internet. But
I remember my buddy and my roommate. We were working together one time, and at the time there was like we learned about Bronies. It was like 2014, I think. Bronies were a thing, and like we would tease my buddy that he was a brony and that he loved My Little Pony because he was like, okay, the animation's actually really good in that show. We're like, oh, okay, so you love My Little Pony? No, I didn't say that. We're like, it's okay, you can like My Little Pony, it's fine. And he's, no, I don't like My Little Pony. I'm just saying the animation's really good because we're animators. And so we'd give him shit about that all the time. And then call him a brony. Then one day I drew a pony next to him on the glass, like wall. And he turned and he gave me that look. And he went to wipe it off. And he didn't wipe off. And he did it a couple more times. And I said, yeah, I realized I was using the wrong marker about halfway through, but it was too late by then. So I just kept going. I had an permanent marker.
Kai, number one, I liked My Little Pony. It had Spike. It was a dragon. So as a scaly, I'm naturally inclined to that as well. Yet for some reason, I end up hating on and ruining Barty for my brother, even though when I think back, I'm like, I did actually kind of enjoy this. I was reacting to social peer pressure because it wasn't cool to like Barty. But basically, bronies are definitely a thing. And there ain't necessarily anything wrong with that because, I mean, heck, as a part of the greater furry community as well, it's like, you got to represent. It's like, be who you are. It's like, who cares? It's like, really? Oh, no. You kind of find something that was influential, especially when a lot of folks were little kids, and you might want to actually have a significant other. I don't know, maybe have like a tail or something like that. I mean, it's not like they sell those or anything. It's not
we're
like
just giving them shit because he was annoyed by it. We didn't really care, but he
Right.
was annoyed by it that we call him a brony instead of telling me like My Little Pony.
Well, what was he a brony?
We would make he's not a brony, but we would make
sure?
What's it called, My Little Pony references and stuff, because like there was I saw this one image of a clip from Rick and Morty where he's doing the like what's he trying to sell where he's a bad salesman.
I have not watched anywhere near enough Rick and Morty.
All right, so what's his name? Jerry's trying to sell something, and then they put the head of one of the My Little Pony horses on him, and they put a giant apple, and he says, "Do you like apples?" But yeah, so I know enough about My Little Pony to get some of the references and jokes and stuff. From what I saw, it's a good show. I just never watched it. It wasn't for me, you know.
So as far as the computational universe goes, what was the step we got to right before talking about bronies?
So there's this physicist.
That's right. Okay, thank you. Science. Hold on. No, it's okay.
Open Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style. Open Gangnam Style.
I like that one.
Continue, sir.
But so this physicist, Thomas W. Campbell, Campbell. Actually, let me just what's it called?
I was gonna say, if you got a little screen there, then we'll share this, dude. It's a collab.
All right. Let's do that. You don't need to make me big.
All right. Hey, we're maximizing that P score because every time you change the thing, it's supposed to help the algorithm. Yes, I am blatantly shilling right now. I did sales and stuff for so freaking long. But yeah, let's take a look at this. What we got?
So yeah, Thomas Campbell is a physicist. But he has a theory of everything. My Big Toe is his website. Okay,
a magnificent beard.
Oh yeah, let me see video here. Q&A. That's not a good. Oh, it looks like he's been doing different stuff. I haven't actually tuned into his channel in a little bit.
Dude, this is great. I'm learning all these new things. Dude, this is why I honestly kind of think perhaps the YouTube algorithm could help save the world. Because I just keep on getting linked to these other videos, and I'm like, it's slightly different than what that other person was saying. But I'm like, it all seems to kind of line up. Maybe it's just my internalized narcissism or Jesus complex that's kicking in there. But I'm like, I start seeing a lot of these folks talking to each other, and that gives me hope for humanity, man.
Oh yeah, dude. He's got 60,000 subscribers now. That's great. His essentially theory is the same as mine, which is how I found him. That consciousness is the underlying everything of everything. And all of reality is built on top of consciousness itself. But
that is very deep, dude. As well as hail Jetson, yes, Cat Girls for the win.
Most people call paranormal. They're not really paranormal from the viewpoint of virtual reality. They're just normal. We're doing things that are available to everybody through the intuitive side of their being. We have two fundamental sides of us in consciousness. One side is the intellectual side. We think, we do logic, we assess, we judge, we analyze. That's the intellectual side. The other side is the intuitive side. In the intuitive side, we get information in whole paragraphs or sometimes whole chapters. We know things. We get information that we can check against the intellectual side or check against this virtual reality and see whether or not it's accurate. And with practice, we can get pretty good at that, to where our intuitive side is just as reliable, if not more reliable, than our intellectual side.
This is fascinating.
Oh yeah,
that's what we're going to develop.
So this is an hour and 14. part 1 of 12.
Well, this is one of the things here, Kai. It's like a lot of this stuff, like there's so much knowledge that's out there. It's so much that we seem to almost kind of rediscover that somebody discovered before. And a lot of this is like, well, a lot of folks just didn't necessarily pay attention to it because let's face it, like unless you're really into that or that's particularly your field, a lot of folks aren't going to spend like hours listening to lectures and stuff like that. There are a surprising amount of folks that will. I know I personally have, like I'll be at work and stuff like that and be like, all right, just toss on like a podcast, listen to like physics and stuff and then swap back over to my anime music.
Hey, real quick, memes.
Yep.
You want to hit like I think it's the 4th window underneath the big screen here and put us back on? Is it like next to the video?
Oh, hold on. Oh, yes. Hold on. Wait. Oh,
yeah. Go ahead and scroll through all those. See what they do.
Okay. Oh, see, look, I'm learning. Kai is poking fun at me for being a noob. It's all right. It's accurate.
I'll just ask you to do this.
Okay. You're being very specific. It's okay. I am a child.
My first time streaming, like the night before, I got on StreamYard and I was like, "What is all this shit?" And I just started clicking buttons to see what things do, and yeah, so it was still a little overwhelming jumping into it first time, but yeah, it's good to know your buttons.
It's all right. It's all right. Hey, don't you dare anybody watching touch my buttons. I'm just kidding. Feel free to touch all my buttons. Continue, sir.
Your buttons in your no-no square.
It's hey, don't touch the no-no square. You can ring a bell if you want, but leave the no-no square alone.
You can ring the bell. But yeah, Thomas Campbell. Like, do you want to listen to more or?
Let's go on a little bit. Just every 15 to 30 seconds, we should actually add some commentary.
Oh
yeah.
An intuitive side, and most of your struggle will be trying to let go of that intellect. That's going to be the challenge, and to work from your intuitive side. But all of
that is something that takes like conscious effort and practice. Is ignoring your brain telling you what's the logical, the right thing to do here, and going, no, I have a very strong feeling things are going to work out, like this or like that because of these other elements, because you're not always consciously aware of all the various things that are happening around you.
Right. Because as we grew up, it's like they always told us, it's like, all right, you get your standard 5 senses. It's like, all right, you get your sight, touch, smell, taste. I keep on forgetting one. Sight, smell, taste, touch, hearing. Oh yes, the one. Thank you, Kai. I'm like, oh yes, the thing's on my ears here. What do we do? Because as far as actually exploring the universe and everything, we're basically just going off of visual light as well as different frequencies we're hearing. So we're only really using 2 of our senses here. And if there's the one thing that would really open up space exploration, we all know that from Futurama, Professor, oh God, no, not Wardstrom, the other dude, yes, Farnsworth. We need a smelloscope.
Yeah, I love the smelloscope, man. That was look great.
You ever wonder what a black hole smells like? But getting back to actual science and everything, well, this is actually very fascinating. And the reason I say that is because when I'm taking the 2 people that I know that have generally, quote unquote, have theories of everything, Mr. Weinstein and Mr. Wolfram, it's like they're both hearkening on that a lot of the issue we might be running into is based upon the observer itself. And this would explain a lot. And Kai, have you ever watched Dragon Ball Z?
Hell yeah.
Okay. You remember when Bulma, Gohan, and Krillin are searching for the Dragon Balls and they end up on this planet and there are these 2 very friendly Namecs. They're taking them all around the planet. And then eventually it turns out they ain't Namecs at all. They just literally constructed the entire planet to look like what they thought Namek would look like. And they were actually 2 aliens that were looking to hijack their spaceship.
Dude, I don't actually remember that. That was before they actually got to Namek?
It was before. It was kind of like some of the filler arcs and stuff like that. But essentially, they land on the planet, and these two alien entities happen to tap into like their brain frequencies and basically make their entire world look like what they would think. They're going and they get like 4 or 5 of the Dragon Balls and everything like that. And then eventually, somehow, I forget exactly what happens, but somebody opens up. It's like, wait a second, this isn't actually real. And they look at them. It's like, you guys ain't Namex and everything. And they're like, oh crap, we get caught. And then they go on, give them like a punch in the mouth or something like that.
Yeah, man, I don't remember that. It's but at least it's just a little filler arc.
All right. No, the big thing was things weren't as they perceived them to be, which is kind of what I'm trying to very poorly make an analogy to what Mr. Campbell is saying.
Dragon Ball Z. I was like, I can't believe I don't remember this.
It wasn't a really major arc or anything, but just as far as that goes, it's like, all right, how much are we missing? Because that's the thing. If there happens to be additional dimensions that either we're not seeing, that we don't necessarily have access to yet or anything, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's very fascinating about what we could potentially do if we just kind of reshift our view on things a little bit, what we could accomplish. So I don't know if you want to go on a little bit more.
No, I agree with you. I think also if like I think there's something about our process, our scientific process, that's maybe a little flawed too, because like we were saying about how scientists will throw out results that don't line up with what they are expecting, like that may be inhibiting our growth if we're passing by, potential discoveries because they seem like discrepancies.
Well, this is the thing. Like, if you're basing it purely off of like mathematics and stuff like that, if that's what the math says, it's like, okay, I mean, it might not necessarily be right, but it's like, well, why wouldn't you necessarily go to publication or just like share that information with the world? Because if that little tidbit of data can fill in the gap that maybe someone else is just missing, and we could achieve, I don't know, either not even necessarily the speed of light, but even just a fraction of the speed of light, if we could increase our efficiency and just literally level up to just like a new level, it's I don't know, man. I don't know. It's like there seems to be so much potential here that if we could just unlock, and just so much of it, I forget who it was, but somebody was saying that's like science advances one funeral at a time, which is a terrible thing to say, but it's just like so much of it does kind of seem to be almost like certain cults of personality. It's like, well, you don't want to argue with this person because, well, now you're going to be shunned and ostracized within the community. I mean, nobody, I mean, that model has never taken place anywhere else before. So,
yeah, man, that's great discoveries have been shuttered and hidden until people are dead, and years later people discover, hey, this thing's been out for like a while. And yeah, hold on, I'm gonna hit play on this guy again.
Yeah.
Things we're trying to do all take place in that intuitive space, not in an intellectual space. So that's where we're going. This is an intensive, or you might say an immersive experience, because when it comes to using your intuition and working in an intuitive space, you're going to learn it much more quickly if it's not piecemeal. If you really get immersed in it and you do it and you stay in it and you work in it and you work in it, you'll get a lot more out of that than if you spend 15 minutes every day for a year. At the end of the year, you'll probably have almost no value for the 15 minutes you spent every day. But if you spend 3 or 4 days immersed in it completely, you'll learn a whole lot. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to work you very hard. Because this is TMI, I am giving you a 2-hour break in the middle of the afternoon, because that's the way they do things here. You will have that, but I encourage you to not get out of the bubble that you're in. I encourage you to stay in it. Use one of those hours to listen to another audio file of your choice. So you can work one of those hours. Now, if you really need to get out and, run 5 miles or something, then you may not want to do that. But if you can, I'd suggest, I call that optional. You don't have to. You got a 2-hour break to do whatever you want. But optionally, I'd suggest listening to.
I'm going to skip ahead.
I almost have to disagree with it because I think I've listened to physics podcasts while running 5 miles. But
I think maybe he means the people. He's talking to the people that are there, like at the event.
Right. No, it sounds almost kind of like a little bit of a symposium or something like that.
Yeah, they're doing some kind of a workshop or something.
Right, and this is the beautiful thing about the internet, because before you had to like physically go to those conferences and stuff to be able to get that information, or hopefully somebody would publish it somewhere on website sometime that maybe the video would work. Now you can literally just live stream this stuff to YouTube. So now we have like literally like a human public record of knowledge.
Yeah, man, it's great. And then there are people that also dedicate themselves to cataloging things and saving things. They go, they save it for posterity and then repost or, reshare and stuff.
Right. And as Bonus said, nothing can escape Walton's black hole brew.
That's what black holes smell like. They smell like coffee.
Well, I mean, one could only hope. Remember, the best part of waking up. Oh, hi, Rudder. How are we doing, my friend? Welcome.
Yeah,
we're talking about science and stuff because it's freaking amazing. But there was another point in the video you wanted to touch on?
I don't know. I just put on one of the videos. So since he exploring the layered reality with Thomas Campbell, I just went to number 1 and hit play because I figured it'd be a good starting point for whatever he was going to talk about. And it was like you got to see kind of what his philosophy on things. Here, I'll stop sharing. That you get to see where he's coming from. That's the kind of even though he'll talk about the physics of a thing, and but that's the perspective that he's coming from. Is that right there? So I would recommend checking out Thomas Campbell when anyone out there if you get a chance.
I totally just didn't subscribe and ring the bell on him. I totally just did. Not just for that very wizardy style beard over there, as well as his additional observations, which seems to fill in some of the gap, because so much of it really just does come down to perception and stuff and what we're actually perceiving. And as soon as you start talking about quantum tunneling, it's like, all right, so this thing literally, once it gets here, it ends up on the other end faster than it really should. It's like, that is freaking amazing, because if we could try to replicate that and then do it to something that actually has some mass, even though I guess apparently waves, do they have mass? I mean, I guess photons have a tiny bit of mass, apparently, maybe. This is the thing. There's so much that we're not really sure about, but all I know is let's delve into something that a lot of folks are talking about. So Kai, what are your thoughts on the multiverse?
I believe there are a lot of different realities and universes out there. I actually mentioned this with on Twitter last night. I was talking with Carmen Pasha and Mad Mardigan about spirituality and religion and whatnot. And so, like I said, that I share that same theory as Thomas Campbell, that consciousness is the base, underlying thing, the thing that underlies all reality. And so if consciousness is the thing that underlies all reality, and everything that is real to us is everything in this universe, and everything that is not real to us is our imagination, everything that is not real to us is also everything that is not in this universe. So that means that our imagination is possibly peeking into the multiverse,
universe,
or helping to create it, or both.
Okay. Here's the thing. That sounds very complicated. Don't get me wrong. I would love for that to be correct, because all I remember is a little 10-year-old memes that was starting the quote unquote Book of Infinity, which I scribed into a notebook, and I was going to type down my thought, or actually write out, because this was before where word processors were used on a daily basis and everything. Actually, like my thoughts on literally the multiverse itself, because I remember after watching the movie the Nullifier, which basically they end up going through like this like trans-dimensional gateway and everything. Like that was my theory. It's like, all right, so basically every thought we have, basically every animated series, whether it's Sonic, Dragon Ball Z, basically everything we end up coming up with, there ends up being a universe with every single potential eventuality occurring within it. And the sheer fact that I'm hearing folks like that are some of the smartest people in the world, in my opinion, saying that one of the ideas I had as a 10-year-old kid, which I'm sure other folks totally had as well, like, is true. I mean, that's a major shot to my ego, but I don't know, dude. That sounds very complicated, but...
How's that a shot to your ego? It means you guessed it right?
Yeah, but it's saying what I want it to say.
Oh, okay.
I'm getting the answer that I want, so it's essentially confirming my personal bias. I'm just being open about this. Don't get me wrong. It makes me feel wicked smart. Yes, that's the way we use wicked to mean really. Not quite really, but really. But it does sound complicated, but then again, if we're going to assume that certain things that Einstein had gotten right, because according to his math and everything, he basically predicted black holes, which are basically, I don't know, just stationary at times universal vacuum cleaners where the laws of physics kind of seem to break down to a point, but it also predicted white holes, which we've apparently never observed. But I don't know, what if our universe was essentially a white hole? Because the reason why I think this is, okay, if all of a sudden you get to a point where matter becomes so dense, there's so much pressure there that we literally collapse the fabric of space and time to the point where you have the quote-unquote singularity. What is a singularity? It's essentially a perfectly spherical point there that basically, once you cross the event horizon, basically even light ends up falling into the void there. And once it starts falling into the void, it's like, well, where's it go? I don't know. And part in the back of my head is, and I'm pretty sure other folks have probably said this before, but it's like, well, if Einstein's math proved black holes, and we believe we've observed them, we're not 100% sure because we haven't been there, but if it does that, well, what if on the other side is just kind of like a white hole, and it's potentially a new universe? I mean, that, in my opinion, would also explain the different dimensionality and stuff, because, well, if we were created from a higher dimensional universe, well, whatever mass was in the star or object or something that was there, that could also create our universe. And as more stuff gets in there, that would also explain why the universe seems to be expanding. I don't know. Let's say
that makes sense. So like it's like matter from our universe is feeding into another universe.
Right. You're saying? Right. Or another universe is feeding into us, which would also perpetuate the cycle. It's that's the thing. If there are multiple universes, and quick shout out to Subhuman as well as K-Shell. Welcome, folks. We're talking a little bit of science, talking the finer theories of black holes, as well as needing Dr. Farnsworth's smelloscope to smell a black hole, which we are hypothesizing smells like coffee, aka Walton's Best.
So some of the theories that I've read about black holes and stuff is that you could theoretically, a white hole would essentially be what's on the other side of a black hole if you were able to go inside the black hole, get to its center without being crushed, and reach the singularity essentially at its center. At its center, the gravity would be so great that it would be like a disk. That it would be like a disk that you could pass through, and then that would take you into the white hole on the other side. So that's a theory I've heard about that in regards to those two astral bodies. But black holes also eject particles and radiation and stuff out of their poles. Yeah. So they recently said that they think that they figured out the discrepancy, the information discrepancy in black holes, which is that information comes in and doesn't go out, etc. That's a nice picture. Son of a bitch. Sorry, I'm having a hard time with this one again. White holes are problematic. Bowen. Hey, Memes, you're muted.
Here I am, gabbing all along, thinking I'm being a very colorful commentator and everything. It's probably best that folks didn't hear my jokes about we all having problems with holes and stuff, but that's a different discussion. So, times like this, okay, I did it wrong. I hit it twice. I lagged. It's all right. It's all right. That was the longer clip. Well, we'll save that for later. But basically, what you're talking about, we're looking at these jets here, and from what I was explained before, had explained to me before, is basically those are like high intensity gamma rays that are kind of going out, which seems like things that maybe aren't quite fully crossing the event horizon, because as you're spinning around here, that stuff's kind of going to flow all around it there. And I believe the term of being sucked into a black hole is actually called spaghettification.
Yeah, because it stretches you out.
Yep.
But the ejections out of the top and bottom, they come out of the poles of the disk. So gravity at high levels, at where it's at, like let's say with Earth and Earth's gravity, it pulls in from everywhere at the same rate. Gravity at high levels flattens. Its effect is essentially flattened. That's why galaxies are generally like this, and same with our solar system. Everything revolves around more or less the same plane, because at a higher level of gravity, it goes around the center like this. Pardon me.
Right. Well, I mean that makes sense. I mean, it's a rotational body, and I mean if it's being affected by objects with mass and everything, and it's kind of spinning. I mean, I saw some simulation where they were showing, they basically just took a big kind of loose sheet and were just kind of like spinning around. It just almost looked like almost like a little bit of a turbine, or almost like a washing machine there. I'm like looking at that, I'm like, wait a second, is that the theory for gravitational waves? Why is that the same thing I constructed in my head of when I was taking in energy, kind of being a anime or digital character or stuff like that? I always just kind of imagine the same thing. We're reaching out to all parts of the universe, and we're trying to draw in energy, basically doing my little knockoff of a spirit bomb. So it's like, all right, well, that makes sense to me, because I've looked at it from a fantasy or maybe a science fantasy perspective. But speaking of black holes as well as singularities and sci-fi, so Kai, tell us what gave you the inspiration to write your book?
Well, it started off as a very, very simple text-based game that I played in high school. I ended up purchasing it because the owners couldn't take care of it anymore. And I kept it alive for a while, but eventually had to shutter it because of security. It was old and outdated and stuff, so I had to shutter it. But I had a lot of fun with the community there, and the game was so ridiculous. Like, it was very binary. There's only like one weapon and one kind of unit, etc. But you'd have like the big gangs would have hundreds of thousands of gangsters, and I was like, bro, what kind of world is this that you have this much crime and it's just okay? Like, what would that be? And so I started thinking of the social and political implications and what world that would be, and gradually this world took shape in my head, and then the story came together. And once the story came together, I was like obsessed with writing it.
So what you're saying is your novel is literally based upon a game?
No, the game and the community gave me got me thinking about it, but the story itself is based on my thoughts on the universe and on society. The world itself is way beyond, like, the game. There was like Earth, Mars, Uranus, Venus, and like that was it. Those are the planets that you can fly to.
So it was more of the inspiration going through that and talking with folks within the community that gave you the inspiration to go in. Okay, I
exactly. My experience with the community is what led to that, because we all, some people would role play. We would have wars and rivalries, and there'd be spies. Like, it was a great fun with the people. But yeah, that question of like, what kind of world would this be, is what got me started down that path.
Oh, that's fascinating. Quick shout out to my other patron that's joined us, Joe Franco, as well. And we were actually just talking about that, Joe, about basically if all of a sudden you have so much matter that literally fragments and just like distorts space-time, what if that's just going to another dimension and basically all that matter and just ends up maybe even creating our universe? Or we might be the higher dimensional beings where other universes are being created from just like supernovae and stuff like that. Because even if you look at it from, and I think I had a little bit of banter, I think it was from Jesse Miller the other day, we were talking about, well, because I had heard some video where like, well, if black holes are like, well, basically, if the universe was to reproduce, because I remember I was listening to, Dr. Brian Keaton and stuff like that, and they were talking about, yes, these supernovas are sending particles throughout the universe to help create new stars and everything. So I'm like, so what you're saying is a supernova is basically a star having an orgasm. It's achieving a climax, which leads to reproduction.
It's spreading its seed throughout the stars.
It literally is. And in some cases, it might literally be creating new universes. I mean, if that's not promulgation, I don't know what is. That might explain a lot about humanity as well. If those are some of the basic rules that, well, what do you want to do? You want to reproduce. How do you reproduce? Well, you could be quiet, or it could be extremely loud and messy.
The what's it called? Fish and whales and stuff. That's one of the ways that they reproduce, is they just like explode into the sea and go, okay, I hope some of that goes somewhere.
Oh, we have Mr. Orange Man Bad, the artist formerly known as Laughing Ogre. I'm sorry if I'm doxing you there, sir. I did study under the chicken hermit in his art of trolling many moons ago, as well as the non-corn streamers. Yes, 2 neckbeards, 1 stream. We're talking about science. And of course, 1 and 1 makes 2, 2 and 1 makes 3. It was destiny. Why? Because we can. I love those squirrels.
I don't have a neckbeard. I just haven't shaved.
It's okay. It's okay. Hey, I'm slowly ascending to what point? Well, this is also an interesting question, because depending on how we categorize things, that also seems to adjust how we look at it. And this is a very interesting thing. It's something that I picked up from Dr. Wolfram, where basically it's, if you can use your generalized language, because it's like, okay, at what point does my neckbeard become a beard? And that actually goes into Mr. Campbell's observations there. Like you were just talking about Kai. It's like, if conformist is saying that I have a neckbeard, I was actually to the point where saying, I think I'm almost at beard level right now. So if we're communicating slightly differently, but we're observing slightly different things, that actually would explain a lot.
Yeah. No, for sure. Like there people have perception is such an important thing that most people don't think about. Sometimes I'll say something and people will sit there and pause and go, I never thought about it like that. You're right. I could totally be doing that right now. And then they like realize they're missing an opportunity right now because they're too busy usually being focused on what they lost or what they don't have. Not like actually something that it wasn't even like this, like a negativity thing, but one of my college teachers had a baby I said, hey, dude, how's it going? Want to catch up? How's everything going, this year? And he's, things are rough and this and that. I said, how old's the baby? He said, oh, it was this old now. I got 6 weeks off, and then I went back to work for a few weeks, and then this happened. And I was like, oh, dude, that's awesome. Perfect timing, right? Now you get to spend more time with them when they're little. He says, I hadn't thought about that. I was like, really, bro?
well, dude. Well, here's the thing. No, that makes so much sense. No, because when you're in the moment and stuff like that, you're like, oh my God. It's like I now have like little ones and stuff like that. This is a major change in dynamic, and you're stressing over this, that, and the other thing. And he's just like focused on just like literally emergency mode, and you kind of just come as an outside observer. It's like, dude, you actually get to spend time with your kids. He's like, holy crap, there is positive to this. It's like, because no, we get so caught up in certain moments and what's going on depending on our reference frame there, because depending on your outlook, man, dude, that literally changes the game for so many different things, whether you're talking like your job performance, your romantic engagements, this, that, or the other thing. It's like, if you're in a bad frame of mind, chances are it might not be all that great. Whereas if you're in the zone, you get the job done. And that's the thing. And even if there isn't a direct correlation there, it's like, I think you're helping to maximize your conditions for success, no matter what you're trying to do.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, dude. I learned that lesson in like 7th grade. There was this kid. He was my first friend at that school. What was his name? Doug.
I like Doug.
So Doug's a cool guy. He was a blurred, but he comes in one day. So we had this stupid zero period for some reason, where we go to our 6th period class for like 15-20 minutes. We do morning announcements, Pledge of Allegiance, and then we go to our 1st period class. I don't know why we don't just start there.
I always kind of wondered that. Why did we have the homeroom? Was that just like for like bookkeeping purposes, just to get folks there, just to make sure everybody shows up? Oh, as well as Mr. Ogre wants to know where he can buy your book.
What's the homeroom? My book is available on Amazon right now. I'm looking to put it on more places. I'm finding out there are more places to put it, aside from Ingram Spark, which I'm partway done with. But yeah, right now it's on Amazon. And I have the first 2 chapters free on my website if you want to go give them a read and see if it's actually something up your alley that you're going to enjoy. But if you're enjoying our conversation, then it probably is. But
we'll toss it in the little chat there. There we go. If anybody's interested in Kai's book, there is the link there. I forgot to put in the doobly-doo below, but we'll put in the doobly-doo below as well. Feel free to check out his little quick space time. If you want to give the folks a little quick overview of your book, feel free to shill away, good sir.
Yeah, sure. But what was I saying just now?
Oh, about your friend Doug.
Oh yeah, Doug. So I'll finish this and then I'll tell you the book thing. So Doug, in 0 period, I show up full, and I'm one of these people that, like, when I'm awake, I'm awake. And so people that don't want to be awake in the morning and they're tired, and I show up all, hey, what's going on? One of my friends straight up looked at me one time and said, it's too early in the morning for Kai, and then just went back to what he was doing. So Doug he's like this, got his head down on his desk. And I walk in and I smack him. I'm like, what's up, Doug? How you doing, man? He says, oh, dude, I've had a bad morning. I said, what? How have you had a bad morning? The morning barely started. You had a bad start to your morning. You know what that means? Nowhere to go but up. So cheer up, dude. You haven't had a bad morning yet. And he's like, you don't understand. And then, like, later that day, he comes running up to me and, like, tackles me. He's like, dude, thank you so much for what you said this morning. You were totally right. My day's been awesome. And I guess his day went really well after that. And
Well, that's the thing. Very often, I feel like we kind of like get mentally stuck. I know I do all the time, where it's like I'm trying to process something, and then all of a sudden there'll be an outside stimuli. I just run into somebody. It's like, you know what, they're right, and I just kind of like shut off my like whatever notions and everything. Either that, or I finish processing. Either that, or maybe I just put on some good music and stuff, and that usually just rejiggers my mind and everything as well.
But either way, you get it together, right? Like,
oh, Mr. Ogre, apparently he's purchased your novel.
oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoy it.
He is a collector of many books.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so far I've gotten nothing but love. Bruce Lombardo's almost done reading it. Culture says he's going to do a review one day, or no.
He's a very busy man. He's a very busy man.
Yeah, sure. I still like to tease him about it. Because I know he tells me every time, he's like, I feel like such an asshole. I'm like, yeah, it's cool. I'm just teasing you, man. It's fine.
I was going to say, unfortunately, I'm not the greatest of readers and everything. I listen mostly audio based right now.
Yeah, that's a whole production I don't have the money or time for right now. But I actually wrote this because I wrote it with the intent to make it accessible for people like me who actually have trouble getting into fiction a lot of the times.
I can kind of have the same thing, because I remember I was reading some like the Dungeons and Dragons stuff, like the Legend of Drizzt and stuff. It's like I'm reading through that and everything. I'm like, oh, this is pretty good and everything, but I don't know. I end up flaking away and just got taken about by other things. But I was gonna say, I'm like, if the book is good, I don't know, maybe I don't want to commit to anything. Don't pay me any money, but
Yeah,
I wouldn't necessarily have a problem doing an audio recording or something for it. I mean, if it's good, because technically, if you record something like what Tom has done and everything, it's like, guess what? One, you can help a buddy out. Number two, well, isn't that an audio file credit? Isn't that like published work?
Mm-hmm. Totally, dude. What's it called? I have a friend who has like a good microphone and audio, soundproofing, audio stuff, like who has a setup so I could actually do it. I would like to do a male-female voices, but
you're talking for like the different characters, or like changing Siri?
No, different for different characters. Have a male and female narrator, but I'm nowhere near working on an audiobook right now.
You are helping keep the non-con streamist here, because he's here for the free Mohawks.
The free Mohawks.
It's all right, dude. I am a fan here, and that was one of the initial things that drew me to Kai. And yes, Drizzt was freaking badass. And you know what? Anytime you can bust out the dual scimitars and everything, I may or may not have created one or two characters that kind of follow that role as well. And yes, I don't know. I love role-playing games and everything, but that also leads me to think at times where, okay, I'm hearing the universe is computational. Then again, if I were to take a Dungeons and Dragons framework and I look at different things that happen, I'm like, that makes a lot of sense to me. It's like, well, how did this happen? Oh, they got a critical 20 confirmed. I mean, dude, we literally broke the plot of like our former DM's freaking game itself, because one of our higher level rangers, it was like a wicked high level wizard where we weren't supposed to have a final encounter for him for a while. He ends up like flying away and everything. He's like, you know what, just for shits and giggles, I'm going to notch an arrow and let it loose. And he had just the right skill set. He rolled a critical 20. He confirms a critical 20. The wizard literally rolls a 2 on his fortitude save. He falls from the air, takes a whole crap ton of damage. And then our other buddy literally goes up and basically just whoosh!
Coup d'etat.
Oh yeah, and everything. It's like,
oh my god, dude.
We literally had broken up, but we continued on. That wasn't the ultimate end of the campaign, but it was the end to a very major protagonist.
Or antagonist.
well, yeah, antagonist and antagonist that during our prequel campaign I ended up playing. I love playing a dark wizard with a name that begins with an M.
Why? Specifically an M.
Well, his name was a
Oh,
play on
the
malice, and I'm also memes and
okay.
M's and
Got you.
M's and
It's
chocolate
like
and everything. Dad jokes.
it's like me with Kai. Like if I'm playing a game like with League of Legends, I got Maokai, Mordekaiser, like anyone with a Kai in it, I'm gonna play.
Dude, as soon as you were talking about your buddy Doug, and you're like, it's too early in the morning for Kai. I'm just immediately like, you know what? If you were to play an episode of Dragon Ball Z Kai at maximum volume at 5 o'clock in the morning, that would be an appropriate thing to say.
I've never watched Dragon Ball Kai, but or Dragon Ball Z Kai. I've heard it was good. It's like uncut, right? Or without
They just cut out the filler, and they never finished it.
Oh, they never finished it.
I mean, the thing is, I'll be straight up, the Toonami intro, it's like, stand by for actually, no, that was just Dragon Ball Z. Never mind. Well, that was also one of the selling points, just because, like, that's just a standard mimetic that stuck with us as kids and stuff. It's like getting home after school and just, like, seeing if I could get our, like, wrestling practice soon enough and everything, and maybe, like, have, like, my mom recorded or something like that. It's like, stand by for Dragon Ball Z. Like, it was just so perfect. I'm like, oh, I'm a teenage boy. Yay!
Dude, I used to race home from school in middle school to catch Dragon Ball Z. I'd be on my bike just because I only had 15 minutes. Like, we got off at 2:45. It started at 3. I was like, I don't have time to waste. Get out of my way.
See, if it was a Frieza-based 15 minutes, you'd have all the time in the world.
Oh, yeah. Or hey, let's get back on space. We're talking about Dragon Ball Z now. So,
thank you, Kai.
So real quick, my book is we follow some space pirates on a rescue mission, and the strike team hunting them down. It's about how much one life can affect the universe. It's about family and love and action, adventure. It's a good time. So yeah, check it out.
Totally. And the link again is being shilled again down there, as well as, we got a Zacharot has appeared, a wild Zacharot. Welcome. Thank you for joining us, my man.
Yeah.
But yes, we were just talking about things involving a Kakarot, a Saiyan who is taking up residence on Earth, and that's actually one of the things that kind of gets me into the whole, like, physics thing as well, because I'm like, wait a second, how the heck could I do a Kamehameha? How could we generate a Kamehameha? How much energy would that take? Because very often when you're working with, like, along some of the power scalars and stuff like that, it's like, all right, when somebody basically has the ability to destroy a planet, it's like, well, the very interesting thing is Earth, which in Latin I believe is terra, it takes approximately upwards of about a teraton of TNT impact to obliterate the planet. I just find that very interesting. I'm sure those aren't exact numbers or anything, but just as far as different power outputs and literally just harnessing the power of the universe itself. Just are you familiar with the concept of strange matter?
Yes.
It's basically go on.
I don't generally take it into account when I'm figuring out my timeline for technological development, because it's, if I remember right, strange matter is matter that we can't create but would need to accomplish certain things, right?
It's, as far as I understand, it's basically just the step right before you get to a black hole. So basically, it's a point where the pressure is so great that basically the different molecules, the different elements, they break down into, like, their protons, their neutrons, their electrons. But then it gets to the point where the quarks themselves literally just become individualized, and basically it's like super concentrated quarks to the point where, at least according to the Kurzig video that I was watching before, because they kind of have it explained a little bit like this right over here, bada boom, bada bing. And when we pop over here, they kind of basically just have it as almost like a congealed, like, soup, where basically all, like, the quarks themselves are in like some superposition of like super fluid. It's very strange where it's just like, rather than being rigid or anything, they basically just, and again, in theory, anything that touches it starts to break down into these elementary particles. It, to me, at least, and again, I ain't a cosmologist, an astronomer, or anything like that, but it almost seems to me like it's breaking down into the most fundamental goop of creation.
That's
because
cool.
because if you had any more mass or pressure beyond that goop, you had, what is it, like the it would be like the Chandrasekhar limit or something, or maybe I'm thinking supernova. But basically, you would end up being in a black hole, and basically space-time as we know it essentially just collapses in on itself. So if that is a step right before, at least in my mind, if you have the highest concentration of the most basic components of the universe, wouldn't that be how you create a replicator? Because that's basically the stuff you would put in like a 3D printer.
That's true. You're right. So that would be, yeah, that'd be what they would harness for a replicator.
It's, I mean, that's, again, I ain't really a really big Star Trek guy. I mean, well, Deep Space Nine was good because, well, Deep Space Nine, but just as far as that goes, well, it just as far as replicator goes, what's it doing? Oh, it's taking just basic whatever's around it, just as fuel and stuff, breaking it down into the most fundamental components. And I'm like, well, if the most fundamental component, just like a whole bunch of just quarks, just like in some sort of stasis, whatever forces you need to act upon it, you could basically just 3D print out, I don't know, pretty much anything.
Yeah, dude. But what's it called? That's cool. I wasn't too familiar with that.
Oh, and welcome, Sean Graham. It's a quark soup. Yeah, basically more or less there. It's, well, the fifth state of matter, it's, well, that is interesting because I was actually just reading an article about that yesterday, because it goes, I'm going to forget one of these because I always forget things in 5, like my sense of hearing that I forgot earlier. Thank you for reminding me, Mr. Kai. But it goes, what is it? You get your solids, you get your liquids, you get your gases, you get your plasma, which is basically extremely high ionized. Basically, you end up either like knocking off an electron, and it kind of becomes almost like a liquid / gas. I mean, we got plasma cutters and stuff, so it's just extremely high energy. As well as the fifth one is it's the Bose-Einstein solid, the condensate. Yep. Hold on, let me again bring it back up here because I was just reading this article, and basically then you even have like the sixth state, which is basically we end up having the magnet going up along, and that's the thing that really gets me, and that's the thing where I start seeing that I'm like, okay, this literally looks like it's mimicking either like gravitational waves or like literally just the outlook of the universe itself. At least that's how it visually looks to me. So.
I think actually that's something that would really help the sciences is more cross-pollination of different disciplines and knowledge bases, because then you get people going, oh, that's like how flowers do this. Oh, that looks like how the galaxy does that, you know? And
well, dude,
there's a lot of overlap there.
Right. And this is why I'm like, things like the YouTube algorithm, because it's like, all right, I find these things just fascinating. And because you're talking about literally like the fundamental basics of the universe, it's like, okay, and I'll listen to these things, and I've been in like a bunch of different professions and everything, and it's like, I ain't an expert on any of this stuff, but just I'm decent at recognizing certain patterns. I'll see things and I'll be like, I've never heard anybody say this. I'm sure somebody has, but very often I'll say something awkwardly that people are like, well, that can't be right. And then it's like, well, maybe I just hadn't never considered that, just because it's like, well, this just interests me. So I'm basically being a child, just asking why. And sometimes there are really good reasons. Sometimes maybe we haven't got there yet, but yeah.
That's a good thing, though. Honestly, I think, so my animation teacher taught us that when you're animating, push an animation until it breaks and then dial it back. And so then you'll get, dynamic, punchy, strong animations that feel right. And so I think that when you're considering what is real, what things could be in the universe, you should have that childlike attitude of like, it could be anything, and then dial it back. You go, okay, well, this actually wouldn't work because of these things, or this is more likely because of whatever, and figure out where you want to go with it. But I think that a sense of childlike wonder is a good thing, and when we're trying to figure out how the universe is constructed.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like it really shouldn't have to take like one funeral at a time. That's just such a morbid way to look upon things there, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, well, how do we navigate around this? Because very often, and again, I'm not sure about the science community. I'm not really involved in the science community that much, aside from maybe theoretically coming up with a neutron bomb when I was a junior in high school, when I was asking a college professor who I later had, who was at a local place, my alma mater, that ended up having a nuclear reactor. It's like, well, what if rather than breaking apart like the different molecules and like uranium, we broke apart like the protons and neutrons? He takes a moment, a solemn breath, that says, well, in theory, you would have created a neutron bomb. Because at that point, I realized, well, I'm Jewish and I theoretically created a neutron bomb in high school. So I'm like, I'm definitely not going to go into physics. That's probably a bad idea. And we come full circle. Go on.
I sometimes think that maybe, people like us who are inclined towards certain things, who knows what we could have discovered if we had gone into physics or engineering, or what we could have created. But then again, I also think that a lot of my perspective and knowledge base and skills come from pursuing art and the things that I did. And so I would have to go back to, learn physics or engineering or whatever I want to pursue, to then be able to actually get the benefit that I'm imagining I would have had if I had gone that way before. You know what I mean?
We also wouldn't be ourselves. That's the thing. We are the culmination of everything that's happened. So, I mean, we could wish in one hand and do whatever in the other, but ultimately, like, who we are right now, and I do tend to think that things come full circle. It's just that very often, if you get into these fields, let's face it, no matter what industry you're in, there's a certain level of groupthink. You kind of get trained a certain way. There are always going to be folks that are outliers a little bit, but if all you're really exposed to is one thing and you didn't have those other experiences, would we even necessarily come to the potential conclusions or hypotheses that we have? I don't know, man. That's the thing. And if the universe, and the thing that kind of bothers me a lot of time that seems to confuse people, including myself, is when people talk about space-time. Like, time in and of itself, as far as how we measure it, is essentially a social construct. It's like when we're talking about the movement of the entire like particles within this universe, it sounds more like space flow to me. And I think that would make things a little bit easier. But as far as, yep, you are right. It is the Bose-Einstein condensate. Yep. It's a condensed matter physics. Is a state of matter, also called the fifth state of matter, which is typically formed when a gas of bosons, low densities, is cooled to temperatures very close to absolute zero, which is really freaking cold.
Oh yeah.
And then I think you get where's the picture? The thing like kind of going up the. I think they did it with like hydrogen, and basically it starts creeping up the sides of the bowl because it's technically lighter than the rest of the air, but it's trying to rise, and the easiest way to rise is going up the sides. I don't know. It just fascinates me, man. All this stuff that like we're starting to figure out. We're just touching upon like the edges of the cosmos and everything. It's like Elon Musk. It's like I enjoy the meme. It's like, well, we got to get off this rock. It's like, okay, yes. It's also a very nice rock. It's our home. Perhaps we should be good shepherds for Mother Earth, because Mother Earth can wipe us out in an instant if she really wanted to.
But memes.
Just saying.
How would rich people make all their money, though, if we did that? Come on, man.
This is the thing that bothers me so much. It's like, really? Hold on, wait. Now, why can't we kind of redo things that try to help maximize ourselves in certain respects, making sure we help take care of our fellow creature if they're in need, and folks that happen to have a lot of money, you can still make a hell of a lot of money. That's the thing. It's just, this is where, and I'm going to trigger some folks in the chat, my apologies, but this is where some of my lefty comrades, they do have fair critiques about certain things about capitalism. Capitalism is absolutely great for trying to help maximize the return on investment to your shareholders. It is amazing at that. It's just you do also want to have certain parameters, because let's face it, if we're all made up of particles in the universe, we're literally created from stars and stuff. Well, I don't know. We still follow the laws of physics. And as you grow and you become more massive, you're going to continue to draw more mass to you, to the point where things might blow up or collapse. All I'm saying is, I think we can do better.
Here's the thing about capitalism, and all these political and social systems that people feel very strongly about. As a game designer, I see all these as having a place in society, as having a role, having a function, having things that it does very well, things that it does not do well. And we need to, and the government, the society is a giant game design. And the rules are the laws. The laws say what happens when you break the rules. You know, here's the rule. You do this, and if you break this rule, like by killing another player, you go to prison. That's what happens. You know, the society is a giant game, and so we need to not be so emotionally attached to these different systems, and recognize where a system it can be implemented in a way that benefits everybody, like socialism and the police. We pay taxes, the taxes pay the police keep everyone safe. Firefighters, a better example, less polarizing, because they're only there to save your life, only ever. And we pay for them. Back when they were privatized, they were private companies, they'd show up and fight over who's going to put out the fire. Or you'd have
they have having a bidding war. It's like, well, it looks pretty hot right now.
They fisticuffs in front of your burning house.
Good.
So
why wouldn't you put it on? It's okay. I could see that being an issue where the
because then you got to pay.
That
they want to get paid for it.
Well, yeah. I'd say whoever gets there can put out the fire first. I mean, hey, there ain't nothing wrong with being first to the fire.
But what if you get there at the same time? Oh, but I came from the longer side of the street. You came from the shorter end. This isn't even your jurisdiction, asshole. Yeah, well, we got here first, all right? And it, like, when it's, because that's a place where capitalism fails. No capitalism with firefighters. Keep them separate. But
it's, well, the
worked, right?
Well, this is the thing. It's like certain things that are viewed as more reasonable and everything, and not to get overly political and stuff here, but it's just, when you look at certain systems, it's like certain things kind of make sense, but very often I think that the way we people at least kind of try to go about implementing them is like, these folks are absolutely evil. We need to get rid of them and do our plan because we are the good guys. And very often that's how things often get pitched. And I think this also kind of hurts a lot of folks within the science, talking about climate change and stuff like that. Like some of the scientists, they're looking at the models and everything, and they're focused on, I think it was the R3 model. It's just like the absolutely runaway, oh my God, all this methane is off. And they're like, we don't know which of these models is necessarily correct, but they focus so much like, we need to do everything now or else we're literally all baby seals. And they just kind of like, they're not the greatest salespeople. That's the issue there, where it's like, listen, if you were straight up with folks, I tend to think folks are smart. They know what they know often well, but when presented with something they're unfamiliar with, they just go with the folks that they know and trust are saying. I mean, that seems to be a fairly universal thing.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, I agree. It's definitely about how you deliver the information. I have friends on the right who will come to me asking me, for clarification on things that they seem to get into arguments with people about. They're like, why are these people so mad? Like, what are they coming? They're saying stupid things. Why are they mad when they're saying stupid things? And they'll come to me. They're like, hey, can you explain to me why Democrats yada, 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 yada? And I'll explain. And then we'll sometimes have a back and forth. But eventually he gets where I'm coming from and I get where he's coming from. And I go, I didn't know that about this thing, that because he's like, well, like one guy specifically hits me up pretty regularly, except for the last few years. But like this guy will, I'll learn from him. about an aspect of this issue that I wasn't aware of, and he'll learn from me where Democrats are coming from and how best to communicate with them about it. Because I'll tell them like, yo, when you say this, this is what they think. But if they knew that you're coming from this place over here, they'd be more open to listening. And
Right.
so it's all about communication and, you know, understanding people. I don't know where this started. I just kept talking. I'm sorry.
No, that makes a whole lot of sense. It really brings me back. It literally is from the Pokemon theme song. It's like, you teach me and I'll teach you. I mean, that's what it is. And that's why I think we also generally get along pretty well. It's like we seem to be kind of cut from like a similar cloth, if you would, in that rather than just assuming, well, this person disagrees with me, so they're obviously a bad person, and let me just hurl a whole bunch of insults. Let me try to understand, because it sounds like, well, you're not trying to start a fight.
Yeah. I'm not trying to argue with people about things. I try to discuss things. Because I saw a quote that said, a writer shouldn't seek to judge, a writer should seek to understand. And that's where I try to come from. Understand.
Right. Well, that's the thing. I've seen plenty of folks that I know that have been in certain interactions that just kind of like somebody says something or somebody does something, and then all of a sudden somebody kind of like starts going nutty bananas, and people respond in kind. And I'll see these interactions, and I'm like, okay, I'll end up interacting with that person on a live stream or something, and I'm like, okay, what if I did the exact opposite of what just happened? What if, rather than assuming uncharitability in somebody, I assume they were coming from a good place and maybe do this thing called, I don't know, showing some respect. It's like, I don't know this gentleman. How are we doing today, sir? What is the good word, sir? It's just like almost that whole earning respect thing that I remember folks talking about for many years, but I don't really seem to see it as much nowadays. I don't know. Is it just me, Kai? What's going on?
People expect it to be given to them. Like when and throughout my life, I've had that where I'm being rude, and people are like, "Hey, how about a little respect?" I'm like, "Fuck you! You haven't earned it. You're being an asshole, and this is how you're reacting. No, you get no respect." And they don't like that at all. They're like, then they get mad and they start being bigger dicks. I'm like, see, you're making it worse. And yeah, I don't stand for that shit.
How dare you point out the fact that people might demand respect but not show any?
Right?
Let's go. It's such a terrible thing. But yes, speaking of things, I have no idea if this will go through, but you're reminding me of this. This was a song that I did at one point a while ago.
There's no audio.
There. Wait a second. Hold on. I'm doing a Mac, so it's not as easy for these things.
Okay.
I
you gotta hit the audio button.
I don't have an audio button.
It says share audio when you hit share screen. It'll say at the bottom.
Wait. Hold on. We can figure this out. Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm learning in real time. I'm trying to be a brawly of streaming. I'm very failing at this quite. He's learning as he streams. Oh God.
How dare he learn? He should just know.
Let me share the stream. I don't see an audio button. I think it's a Mac thing, dude. I think I did this before.
Say share audio at the bottom? When you first click share screen, a pop-up comes up, right? Asking you what you want to share?
It share screen. Okay. It shares the contents of your screen. I think it is a Mac thing. I need to go through a third-party actual device to rewrite because it normally doesn't pick up audio.
Well, then, do you have other options like share applications and stuff?
It just says edit name and share screen. Let me try this one more time. Wait a second. Where am I? Okay, no, it is actually. Oh, wait. Wait,
Done.
no. Okay, we'll figure that out later. It's okay. It's not important. No, it was the point in the song where I basically say, "You teach me, and I'll teach you." And wow, my beard was thick right there. I do feel like a neck beard, given the comparison at the moment. Oh well, these things happen. My apologies, Bone. My apologies. I'm sorry. I'm a complete failure here. We'll get better there. But
Your beard has gotten bigger.
well, it's slowly but surely. Different strokes for different folks. But I know you said you only had so much time, Kai. Was there anything else sciencey you wanted to touch on, man?
I had a thought about something you mentioned earlier, but I forgot what it was, and we moved along.
Was it about dimensionality, quantum tunneling, the universe reproducing?
No, I don't remember. I don't know, man. But what's it called? I have like a whole timeline for where I expect different technologies to drop in over the next 160 years. But yeah, I think it's very much like you were talking about the science progresses one funeral at a time, and how Tesla got muscled up by business people and stuff. Like those are the things that are going to largely dictate what technology gets developed and how it's implemented in society. So I think it's a good time for us all as independent, in a time when it's easier to be like an independent creator and making things. I think we need some rebels out in the world making some shit, like discovering things and putting it out there. But
well, that's the thing.
Money, so.
Right. And this is the power of the internet right now, just because, and Google for all the flack that we'll give them and everything. I mean, look at what they've given the world and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, they did buy YouTube and everything, but it's like, all right, we have the ability to stream this to folks that are watching now, and then folks who may choose to watch in the future. Just pitching some ideas about a little bit of science and stuff out there. The ability to collaborate and have all these tools and everything. And my big thing is, again, like I don't see a reason why a lot of big established players that are willing to help littler folks along, especially if they happen to have some good ideas or ideas worth investing in, you can still make plenty of money doing things. There's always going to be ability to make money. It's just, and I do think there's going to be something that comes down to actually having a certain level of genuineness for folks, and because people are seeing through a lot of the corporate stuff now. I mean, don't get me wrong, a lot of these corporations are extraordinarily smart. They have algorithms that can literally predict, it's like, well, this person's complaining, but we know they're always going to stay here, so we're just going to knock $10 a month off their bill and they'll be happy and they'll leave us alone for a year or two. It's like, dude, I've totally seen things like that happen. I've worked for some of these companies. They are very smart, but then again, at the same time, a lot of the folks that are kind of try to go a new direction within a lot of these industries, it very often it ends up being turned into a fight. Why? Well, it's drama. People love drama. I love drama. It gets attention, and people can become famous, and then once they become famous, they have the ability to monetize off of that. I'm like, okay, that might be a little short-term thing. Maybe you threw a bunch of folks under the bus. Did they deserve to be thrown under the bus? Maybe so in some instances. In other instances, unfortunately, I think maybe that person just had a gripe with them and they were just looking to end these people's careers. And is that productive? Maybe it is. But I think the actual work to actually get folks to start changing their minds, you need a compelling story, you need a compelling pitch, and hopefully you actually have something that's actually very useful that can help to just level up humanity there. And I do think there are ways that can be pitched where it's like, right now, it's like, well, we're looking to go back to slightly before Einstein's final, like, general relativity and stuff like that. It's like, we're going to the spaces, like, using, like, his field equations and Maxwell's field equations. And it's like, all right, well, it seems like they were mostly right. And if we can just readjust that very slightly, it's like, that doesn't discredit everybody. It's like, okay, yeah, maybe we're on a little bit of shaky ground. But if there's one thing I've learned from Monty Python, it's a holy grail. If you build a castle in a swamp and sink to the swamp, you'll build another castle. That one sinks to the swamp, You build a third castle. That one burns down, falls over, then sinks to the swamp. But you know what? At that time, that final castle stood because there's probably enough crap in the swamp to help give it a foundation.
Yeah, that's so accurate because a lot of the what's it called, progress that we've made since Einstein is because of Einstein. He presented something that was so different than what was out there. Him and Niels Bohr are the two that changed the way we look at reality. And so it's not surprising that they didn't have the whole picture, because we've painted in a lot more of the picture since then. And then we realized their perspective was a little bit off or something, you know? Oh, no, oh my God. Like, they're still crazy smart.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, and again, we have a lot of the stuff we're doing right now for everybody watching now and in the future. A lot of that stuff came to us from a lot of these different scientists. So many folks that have done so much work, and a lot of folks that, you know what, unfortunately, we'll probably never even know the names of the people that were actually like in the labs doing the tests, that were actually computing, doing this, that, and the other thing. And my big thing is now, one of the issues people have is people are willing to do good work, and especially if they're passionate about it, some folks will literally do this pro bono. The big thing is people want credit for their work. And I think we have the ability to much more easily now do it. It's not like you got to run down to the patent office and everything. If we're literally, and I've seen Professor Wolfram literally do this with like his physics project. It was actually funny. I was watching the very first like working session, and he was having all these issues with his own language and stuff like that. He's like, wait a second, this is slightly off here. No, but it was very human. And he's also probably got like, I don't know, 200 something working hours up there in live streams. Will I watch them all? Probably not. But you now have the ability to have active citation, because guess what? Whatever workshop took place on August 26th at 3 p.m., where they maybe found like the computational equivalent to special relativity, guess what? They literally have the evidence there, timestamp dated in a video of them making that discovery. And this is very exciting because, especially he's kind of having it being more of an open source project. Guess what? If you have a couple of ideas, you could throw a little something in there, see what helps propagate. They're trying to basically also reach out to folks. If you're willing to donate some computer processing power to the project, great, go for it.
Cool.
And it's things like that. And whether or not Mr. Wolfram has the best answers out there right now, just that sheer model in and of itself of people working together to figure out cool and amazing stuff to help us level up. Dude, I think that is the answer. And guess what? Once some of that stuff actually starts to make it big, all those folks that were working on that project, guess what? They were part of something. And I think this is one of the draws to certain things like YouTube, because you got folks here like you and I are talking, but there's active discussions in the chat going on, whether it's trolling, whether it's actually discussing actual ideas that might literally explain why the actual propagation of the universe is there. Guess what? If you put that in a chat or something like that, I don't know, 10 years, it's like, you were right. Well, I said this 10 years ago. No, you didn't. No, here's where I said it in the chat 10 years ago. It's like, oh, maybe this person was actually onto something here. Because before, what do we do? It's like, well, somebody wrote this down. Well, when did they write this down? Well, they don't have a date on it. Well, according to our carbon dating, our best guesstimates is it's within these 60 years, maybe. It's like, well, now we actually have the ability to, it's like, man, this is the thing that kind of bothers me about a lot of things that go on. It's like, you see so much negativity on the internet, folks going back and forth with each other. It's like, well, that just sounds like, it kind of reminds me of doing a line of like Rage Cane, and you're just like, give me that delicious rage and stuff like that. And yeah, that's, don't get me wrong, that can be completely fun, and I love doing stuff like that. But at the same time, you then immediately have the come down. So you need a little turns into a little bit more, and I think that it explains a lot of the drama we have. Whereas, wait a second, if everything we're doing on the internet is essentially being logged, well, why wouldn't we try to do like the best we can? Like actually, like, I don't know, maybe try to set an example for the internet archaeologists of like hundreds of years from now, assuming we don't obliterate ourselves. I don't know, but Kai, you're going to share the future of technology with us.
Oh, no, I wasn't gonna like go through all that. I was saying if you want to talk more about stuff, like I've got like that. That was what led to my talking about the companies and money essentially dictating the path forward in technology. That was one of the factors I took into heavy consideration. Yeah.
It's and I think we can work on that. And again, it's unfortunate, but just a lot of the way money goes, it's risk versus reward. It's like somebody has an idea. Who's this person? It's nobody that you've ever heard of. Okay, well, why am I going to invest $1 billion in this project? Whereas it's like, all right, well, it's this person that brought us like all this technology that all these $1 billion companies use. Okay, more likely to throw $1 billion at them. But I think we're also reaching the point now where there are a lot of good people out there. I think most folks are good people. It's just we have a lot of improper incentives right now. And I'm noticing a lot of folks there that whether it's Dr. Wolfram, whether it's Dr. Weinstein, or whoever it might be, like I'm on Dr. Weinstein's Discord and stuff, and they are actually working on, to varying degrees, a number of different projects, having different discussions. I've had some great discussions on those folks' Discords there about just politics, reality, this, that, and the other thing, as well as Dr. Brian Keating. I refer to him as freaking like the Nick Fury of the physics community. It's like he's had everyone from like Sir Roger Penrose on, Stephen Wolfram, Eric Weinstein. He's having all these cosmologists, this, that, all these Nobel Prize winners and everything. And it's like he's only got like 12,000 like subscribers on YouTube. It's like very often I'm one of the few people actually in his chats and everything. It's like, dude, I'm listening to him talking to like all these folks that are like talking about like whether it's Sir Roger Penrose or stuff like that. These are folks that are like winning the Nobel Prize, and like it's also fun watching him try to utilize OBS. And it's, with all respect to Dr. Keating, it's just he's not the greatest at it. I sent him a link. I sent him my referral link to StreamYards because I'm like, because he kept on having, because he's trying to pipe in folks from Zoom and change the different inputs and stuff through OBS and everything. And dude, it's confusing. I've done it myself. So I'm just like, Professor Keating, here you go. You might want to check this out.
StreamYard, Professor.
if you actually sign up, I actually get like a free month or something. So by all means, go for it. But this is one of those things. It's like, you know what? If that makes it easier for him to spend more time talking to Sir Roger Penrose, and they can have a better quality conversation, guess what? That helps me. That helps him. That helps his audience. That helps his guests
too, because it's more professional.
Well, exactly. And these are some of like the little things where it's like, okay, that sounds like more of a cooperational rather than an antagonistic network. It's like, well, why not do some of these things? Like very often, like if I see a troll or something going around, it's like, well, why am I just going to ban a troll or do something like this? And not saying that Joyce Gauss is a troll, but hail Joyce, welcome. Welcome. Yeah. We're talking a little bit of science and maybe a little bit of metaphysical kind of politics, not even really politics, but just interactions between human beings. Because, well, we're all our own individuals, but we're still made up of the same fundamental components. I truly believe we're all similar than we are different, but we do each have our own unique life experience. You could extrapolate that out to pretty much particles in and of themselves. We're individual human particles that each go through our own flow in life. Just like every particle has its exact different experience from every other particle. And I can see, my friend, you are achieving a state of soup. I was going to make another joke there, but it completely failed out. So at times like these.
낮에는 따사로운 인간적인 여자 커피 한 잔에 여유를 아는 품격 있는 여자 오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일 오빤 강남스타일
I have no idea what's going on here, but all right, folks, we're doing okay. Drugs are bad, but yes, that was the full clip of the squirrels. It's like 20-something seconds there. I put them all in there with a little intermission. Yes, at some point I will wield all the memes at my disposal. It'll be dangerous.
Man, that's what I'm looking forward to actually right now with the with my Christmas version is I gotta find new clips to replace the Halloween clips.
Have you thought about maybe licensing out some of your games and stuff like that? Because you go into really deep into some of those things, and I'm like, that sounds like something like I don't know. Is there a website where you can kind of do like a Jack in the Box and like upload your own game and stuff and just let people play?
Well, right now it's not built in a way that I can do that. It's just an Illustrator file. But once I do actually build it in the game engine, I can make it available for people to play. What's it called? Yeah, that'd be cool. But that's down the line.
Oh yeah. Well, this is the thing. It's like, all right, all I know is you have just using this as example right here. What do you have? Well, you have a bunch of mass and information that's in a form of a game. Now, I'm observing that, but as you said, your observation level is to do what I was proposing actually requires a lot of other things to literally just load it on a game engine. I have no idea how any of that stuff works. I ain't a video game designer. It's like, I didn't go to school for that. I mean, that's why you're here. You're the novelist. I ain't read the book. So it's like, I observe that, and then I can also acknowledge that based upon what you've told me, somebody that's been within these industries, there's a lot more involved. What I'm saying is there are a lot of folks out there that are looking to kind of get a start at something, and if they share a common interest with you, and maybe they kind of get along, or at least they don't hate you, maybe they're willing to help a brother out for whether it's pro bono or even just a modest like fee or something like that. So it's like this right back here. It's like, dude, I paid an artist to do this and everything. Did it take a little while? Yeah, but it's like it was good work. I liked it. Shoot them a little money, maybe shoot them a little extra more, because I think good work should be compensated. It's just a lot of folks, I think they feel very awkward about having those discussions anytime like money is involved or anything. It's like my original like website, or at least more recent time, the Skeptics Guild. It's like, dude, that stuff got put up in like 48 hours from like my back end a robot like Optimus, dude. He did a freaking amazing job and stuff, just because he's also using it for some of his data analytics and stuff like that as well. But at the same time, it's like, dude, thank you for doing this. It's like, I think I'm going to compensate folks for good work and stuff. It's like, yeah, I can't pay you the world or anything, but if I'm going to ask somebody to do something, especially if it's really helping me out and it's for my benefit, it's like, okay, no, we should try to compensate people. It's just, how do we, as soon as you start to get into actual contract form and stuff, it does get more difficult as well. So it's almost talking about like Plato's observation of like the world, like talking about platonic solids and stuff like that. It's like, okay, you're getting a lot of things kind of right, but the actual technicalities, there is more involved. But essentially, I realize I'm rambling on now at this point, but all I'm really trying to communicate is there are folks out there that are willing to help people out. And if we can harness that power, guess what? If all of a sudden you guys put that game together and everything, if nothing came of that, guess what? That person that did some of those other things for you, now they can actually literally list that on their resume. I did this. Well, how do I know you did this? We're in the internet age now. Guess what? You can go to the site and they can literally play the game and be like, oh crap, this person actually did this. That's cool. Whether or not you actually played or anything, at least you have proof that this person did something on a professional level. And if it happened to make money, guess what? Hey, you guys can make money off of it. But this is the thing. We can, like you were saying, learn from each other. Like you were giving me an example from like your friend Doug and other things just back in school. Like these are lessons that I think we learned back in the day. It's like if you were going to like prank a teacher or do kind of something crazy in class, you could get a bunch of folks to help out of that because they all wanted to do that. And you could organize folks very easily. And I think losing some of that childhood perspective of just like, you run into someone on the playground on like one of those big like wooden play sets from back in the day. It's like, oh, we're having fun. You want to be friends? Yes. Okay, now we're friends. It's like, guess what? It was such a simple thing, and that sounds bizarre, but how many times on Facebook or other like social media they're like, oh, friend.
Well,
it's like, At least the first one, we actually had like a physical interaction.
That's what what's it called? Like when I started hanging out with the community, that was kind of how it worked out. When I was looking around, I was like, "Hey, Culture, you want to do a stream together?" And he said, "Talk about video games." He said, "Yeah," and then it turned into a show. And Angelus jumped in. Now I didn't know who Angelus even was at the time. He's like, "I want to do that too." He's like, "Come on in." I was like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" But yeah, I was gonna segue to that. What's it called? Shit, I wanted to touch on something you were saying. Oh yeah, in terms of in games are it's a collaborative industry. So in school we learned how to work together, take on roles, distribute work and whatnot. And I have friends in the industry all over, and I have so much to catch up on, mostly on my book and other things that I haven't got to. And also the game's been evolving, so I haven't wanted to put it in a game engine just yet. But now the game is at a point where I really like it, and I'm gonna stick to pretty much what I've got. So now that I know the mechanics are solid, now I feel comfortable putting it in a game engine, because before, from week to week, I was changing things. I would, this ability isn't working, I'm gonna replace it with this. This is, this needs balance. This isn't working. This is a new thing, And so it was too fluid for me to actually build anything functional. But Joyce, my book, we follow my book is about a crew of space pirates trying to rescue the captain's daughter, and they're being hunted down by a government strike team, and they have no clue. It starts off with an alien being from outside of our universe arriving on Earth and changing events, and we're seeing from the worm's eye view history being changed by the people that we're following. We don't know, they don't know, but things are happening, and we see how much a single life can influence the universe. So yeah,
we're all connected, man. That's the thing. It's like everything affects everything, or everybody affects everybody. It literally, they called it, what was it, like the butterfly effect or something like that. It's like everything that happens affects everyone else. And I tend to think that, and again, maybe this would be against Professor Wolfram's or Dr. Wolfram's little computational thing, but I don't know. I tend to think that as far as, because you were talking about consciousness with Mr. Campbell earlier, I start going back and I'm like, okay, well, how about free will? Is that a thing? If it's computational, that sounds kind of deterministic. Well, what would potentially be the variable in there? I don't know. The only variable I could think of would be the soul, which I don't know. And how much would that influence it? I tend to think that each of us, I do think it's not easy, but it's hard. But with enough effort, I do think we can tangentially affect the trajectory there. And again, maybe this is just a religious argument on my part, but when everybody affects everybody, it was just like those conversations you were having like with your friends back in school, Kai. It's like being able to influence another person and stuff, whether or not we individually ourselves really find a theory of everything, or it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, we literally discovered like this ancient obelisk that will lead us to like the next level of a game, which apparently may or may not have happened somewhere in like Arizona or something, New Mexico. But basically that's the thing. It's like, what happens if we do affect other folks around us, and then they affect other folks around us? It's kind of the concept of paying it forward. And I truly believe if we can have a more positive influence on our fellow creature, I do think that even just that basic meme itself can promulgate. But before, I think it was harder to almost do it, just because that was kind of built in. I think, I don't know, maybe we called that courtesy or something back in the day. Oh, hey, how you doing? Oh, nice day, this, that, the other. But it became so monotonous and so robotic that I don't think a lot of folks even meant it anymore, because I can't even tell you the number of times that somebody would ask me something and I would just be like, just another day in paradise. And it's like, okay, if I had like a nickel for every time I said that or other people said that, I'd have a whole lot of nickels right now. And I do think the ability to influence one another, I think we're in such a negative spot, and at least even just our mindset right now, aside from just all the living in plague times and everything, I think that courtesy and respect, I think that could be contagious, man, because like a lot of folks don't seem used to it. It seems almost novel to them. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree. I try to be a positive, uplifting force wherever I go. If I see sad people, I try to make them happy, etc. I try to be helpful. But yeah. But I agree that you can absolutely have, because if you change, someone's having a shitty day, they're going to be taking that out on everybody around them. And then if you take them from shitty day to good day, they're now going to be taking that good day out on everyone around them. And so you're helping a lot more people than just that one.
Right. Well, even if that person doesn't promulgate positivity, if they abstain from negativity, I'd say that that's also a win, because if somebody was going to take out their frustrations on another person, that also breeds negativity. Like what you're saying, dude, if you can hit that level, dude, I'll take avoiding a net negative in a lot of respects. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'd love to have it be like all of a sudden you get that person going, all of a sudden it's like they literally save the person that ends up like making the discovery that like unifies humanity and finds this like infinite energy, this, that, or the other thing. It's like, well, I didn't know that person. That person didn't necessarily know that person. But the person ends up saving that person, that ends up affecting the other person. I realize I swapped at least one person in and out. I should have used another example there.
It's all good.
But that's the thing. It's just as soon as we start talking about this, it's like, okay, well, maybe there's a chance. And that combined with like all this different space, time and stuff. And a lot of these things, like folks, like you said, it's like we've known about some of the stuff, at least conceptually, for going on almost 100 years now. And at that point, it's like, wait. We've had this information for like 80 something years. It's like, well, I didn't know about it. Well, it was in some obscure paper locked in like some, I don't know, university library or something like that. It's like, oh, well, if only somebody knew that existed, maybe that would have been useful. But now we literally have the breadth of human knowledge, the Library of Alexandria, to whatever exponent now, literally available almost wherever we are most of the time. Like, this is freaking phenomenal. If you could clear the cache of hatred.
The sad thing is we have all this knowledge and people don't know how to think. Right? People think in ways that I think far too often are incentivized and conditioned in certain directions that are suboptimal, in my opinion. That's what I meant, is people we do not teach people how to take an information with discipline and assess it, and people instead they think passively. They don't think actively in general. And passively meaning that like you think what you think and then you just go with it. You don't sit there and analyze your thoughts or your conclusions and then reevaluate. There's like a process.
People don't do that.
I'm saying in general, people mostly react as opposed to making a consciously analyzing and questioning themselves.
Oh, it sounds like you're talking about like introspection.
Yeah, a little bit, because that's what when you actually apply your conscious thought, it's introspective. You're analyzing your own conclusions. You're analyzing your actions. You're analyzing information that was given to you before you spit it back out. And that's an internal process that is not really emphasized today.
It makes me sad because there's so much potentiality, and I think that's why you very often have good interactions with folks that maybe you're not even very familiar with, because it sounds like you kind of take an approach where it's like you take in the information, you analyze it, you probably ask some follow-up questions that are relevant and everything to add additional context. And then you basically kind of just respond to it. It's like, okay, well, that sounds like a kind of crappy thing you probably shouldn't have done. Or it's like, okay, maybe I don't agree with you, but I completely understand why that happened. So rather than just being like, all right, oh, something happened, good or bad? Okay, 0, 1. Okay.
Devil, pitchfork out. You know.
Well, I think a lot of it's because it's kind of been gamified into just, oh my God, we've literally turned, I think, social media into Call of Duty zombies. Who are the zombies? Well, that depends on who you're raiding with. It's like, oh my God, the Nazi zombies. Oh, watch out for those fascists. Oh, the fascists are coming for us. You gotta get those fascists and everything.
You gotta get them all.
Dude, I never played that version of Call of Duty. I hear it was like the greatest, and I hear folks that I'm pretty sure, at least from my perspective, were probably both left and right, and they both seem to like blowing up the fascist zombies. I don't know what the heck happened.
I think it was just a well-executed zombie mode in a popular shooter. Like, because Call of Duty has a huge following. Like, the people who play Call of Duty will buy the new version like every year. So
it's, well, I mean, if you really like a game and stuff, you tend to do it. I mean, I bought more than one World of Warcraft expansion.
Yeah, true. Speaking of which, are you playing the new one, Shadowlands?
No, I haven't played since Lich King. I stopped. I mean, well, server first, level 80 Death Knight. Woo! But
Nice.
yeah, it's, I don't know. I didn't even play to the end there. It's just
Oh, you didn't even play to the end of Lich King?
No.
So you don't know what happened to Arthas? You didn't see the
I kind of watched. I may have just watched like the last battle and the ending, just for my own like references. I'm like, okay, you made it a cooler Kelth. It looked like a cooler Kel'Thuzad battle. I also did participate on a server first max clear.
Did it?
Sorry,
like,
I'm sorry.
Did you get bored of it? Like, was it too like? Were you?
I was too addicted. I was too addicted, man. I spent the amount of slash blade I had in World of Warcraft. I could have earned a doctorate degree.
Damn, dude. Yeah. Like you're saying, server first. That's hardcore rating.
It was a lot of not sleeping that much and a lot of Diet Pepsi, and then just passing by the Orc Death Knight.
I was going to invite you to play with I was going to invite you to play if you want to jump. It's a good time to jump back into the game, but like my guild, we get drunk and fuck around. Like we don't do hardcore raids and stuff. Eventually, we'll try to do some things, but like generally, we're questing together. We're doing the story, doing dungeons together. We'll end up PvPing together and trolling the Alliance.
For the Horde.
Fuck baby.
I was originally Alliance back in the day, and then a lot of folks that I was in a guild with, they re-rolled Horde and wanted the expansion, so I re-rolled.
Nice. Yeah, if you were a hardcore raider, it makes sense that you were Alliance back then.
Well, blessing of Kings, baby.
Boom.
Oh, there we go. Dude, you guys.
Watch.
You got your own little logo. Is that the guild crest?
No, this is the Horde logo.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a noob. Oh. Wow.
But it lights up.
Oh, jeez.
So at night. Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful there. Oh, dude, that brings me back. It's just like, and playing something like even just World of Warcraft, and just in respect to science and everything like that, did actually teach me about, I don't know, like data delays and everything. Because I still remember back in the day, one of the ways I was able to maximize my output on my gnome mage back in the molten core chain casting frost bolts. You would do a slash stop casting script on your frostbolt, because normally you'd hit it and you need to wait till you stopped casting to cast it again. And back in probably early to mid 2000s, when you're dealing with, I don't know, like 100 milliseconds or so of lag, guess what? That's a tenth of a second that If you wait till just about 2.4 seconds in that 2.5 cast spell, you hit that, it's going to stop casting. But by the time that script reaches the server, you'll have already cast it, and you'll already begin casting the other one. So you could actually get off several more casts in a fight to help maximize your DPS. Now, the trade-off was, if you effed up on the timing, if you did that more than once, your DPS was probably going to be lower.
Yeah, your DPS is going to drop significantly.
Because you're going to stop casting in the middle of a cast and everything. And that was one of the... They ended up kind of fixing that so you could kind of just spam. It would just keep on sending the server thing. They patched that later. But that was like an OG vanilla thing. It's like back in the day, it's like, how's your DPS so high? It's like, I do this.
I just want to say thank you, Joyce.
Yes, as everything devolves back into video games. I mean, you only got a guy that went to school for it and a server first level 8 Death Knight, so...
I don't have any of those kinds of achievements. Like, I started playing... Well, let's wrap it up here, but I guess I'll just finish with this. I started playing during Burning Crusade, and then my guild and I leveled up through Lich King together, and we played the hell out of that, and then I dropped out during Cataclysm, and I came back again intermittently this last year, and then now Shadowlands I'm trying to stick with it because it actually feels they squished all the levels down, so it feels like my alts feel like they could actually do stuff, you know. But I gotta get moving, man. I need to put these in the oven. So
all right, no, hey, thank you for all the time and everything. Thank you all in the audience for watching and everything. This has been a great time talking about space, time, video games, this, that, and everything in between. So thank you all for watching. Be safe and peace out, everybody.
낮에는 따사로운 인간적인 여자 커피 한 잔에